Good morning, guys. Another episode of Banish The Doubt. I want to start off today's exercise or video with an exercise, if you will, a question. How many times, now this is a rhetorical question, how many times in your life growing up, in school, church, work, how many times were you told, okay, now we're required at certain points or certain points during the day to stop what we're doing and be quiet and meditate and kind of really get um, centered and comfortable with yourself, because we find then that when we do this, when we do these exercises, we find that students' grades improve, um, work, people, employees are seem to be better employees, or a little more, um, they have a better attitude. They tend to show up on time. They tend to stay longer. Now, obviously, the answer to this is zero, right? Never. And there's a reason for that, because as Dr. Hawkins said in his book, Letting Go, the world doesn't want us to know about ourselves, doesn't want us to know who we truly are. They want robots, they want sheep. So I'm going to read a couple things here that I wrote down, that it is my intention making these videos, not only to make the videos so that I can share what I'm learning, but I'm also sort of teaching myself, reminding myself as I'm making these videos on what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. So thoughts are like goldfish in a bowl. The real self is like the water. The real self is the space between the thoughts, the space here between the thoughts. Okay? The thoughts, or more exactly, the field of silent awareness underneath the thoughts. So it's similar to, we've all done this, reacted in a way that maybe in the moment we're caught up in the moment of the emotion. And then later on we step back, we say, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or should have reacted the way I did. And we've all had these times. And it goes back to, we're not, of course, we're present in that moment when we have that emotional reaction, but really we are unconscious. So we're present in the moment, we're having that interaction with somebody, but we're unconscious. We see this playing out on the roads and on our highways almost every day, right? We hear about a road rage incident because the two combatants were, obviously involved in the moment, but unconsciously, all the shit that was piled up in the back of their mind from from life, that came up in that moment. So that's what we're talking about. The space between the thoughts, or more exactly, the silent awareness underneath the thoughts. It's the suppressed emotions. It's the boys, real men don't cry crap that we were born to, we were raised with this feeling. The famous scene from The Godfather, where Godfather, Don Corleone, stands up in, Frank Sinatra's, the young guy portraying Frank Sinatra in the movie, or real life, he shakes him and he starts to mock him because the character starts to cry. You see, so the subtle message underneath that, the silent awareness, the underneath the message is, if you're a real man, you don't cry, you don't show emotions. We suppress the emotions. Okay? So this is some of the stuff that we're conditioned to believe inside of us, but out of awareness is the truth that I already know everything I need to know. But that underneath, that's suppressed, that's underneath all the other stuff. Like I've talked about in the past, it's the, the fictitious, the illusion that we're carrying around this bag of crap, that a lot of the stones in this bag that we carry really come from those who were our caregivers and those we looked to growing up, but they just did the same thing to their parents prior to them, our ancestors. There is one thing that the world does not want us to find out, and that is the truth about ourselves. They don't want, I mean, granted, I'm making these videos on YouTube, but really in reality, the church, I mean, we see it playing out now with what's going on in the Middle East. It's all based off of religion. It's all based off of this crap that people have been shoveled into people's minds for generations, for just centuries, rather than understanding we're all connected. Why don't they want us to know the truth about ourselves? Because then when we become free, we can no longer be controlled or manipulated. Okay? Therefore, the voyage of inner discovery, what I'm talking about now, what you are watching right now, and the other videos on YouTube and the books that we read, the voyage of inner discovery that is cloaked over with an aura of mystery and foreboding, the fear that something bad will happen. Now, isn't that the underlying message of the church? The shit that we were fed, that, well, now little Johnny or little Mary or whatever, if you don't, I mean, if you don't go to church on Sunday, and something happens, well, you got to follow these commandments. You got to follow the rules of the church. You really have to. I mean, when was the last time you went to confession? I mean, you have to confess your sins. We're all sinners. I mean, think of that. Think of you're growing up with this mindset, with this mentality that you kneel down before God. No, Jesus is inside of you. If you read the Bible, he says, no, you don't bow down in front of me. I came here to help you. I'm here to serve you. I am inside. The Father is inside of you, is inside of all of us. He was called the light of the world because when we go inside, it says that third eye, the single eye, when we meditate, our bodies light up because the inner, that light is already inside of us. But you see this playing out. And this is the stuff that we're led to believe. So now, you see this here. Carl Jung referred to as a super consciousness. Buddha referred to as nirvana. Jesus said the kingdom is within you. This is the higher mind. This is where we go. Jesus talked about it in the Bible. We go upstairs, meaning our higher mind. We go to the closet. We go to that space. We just sit by ourselves, close the door. We close our eyes. We meditate. We understand that we are all interconnected here on this planet. When we start doing this, okay, a good and very illuminating exercise is to sit down and look at the feelings that is directly opposite the negative one that we are experiencing and try and to begin to let go resisting it. So when we find ourselves in situations where negative emotions are coming up, it is through this practice, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, it is through this practice of becoming present, this practice of being present at all times as much as possible, and understanding how what we are thinking. I mean, there's this voice inside of us is always there, but become more aware of this voice. What is it telling us in this moment? And if it's anything with fear or anger, we understand that on the opposite side of that is its opposite. And why are we resisting that positive feeling in that moment? What is it about this moment that we are resisting the positive. So, like Bashar talks about, we in every moment, anything that pops up, we look to see how we can extract the positive from it. So when we find ourselves in a situation where maybe we're judging somebody else, we learn to understand, okay, so there's something here I'm resisting. And we understand, like, so many times I'll be out walking my dog, not many times, but sometimes I'm out walking my dog and somebody will be coming towards me. And it's very interesting to see, to sort of notice this exchange about to take place. And there may not be even an eye contact, but there is an exchange taking place in any event, in as much that the other person either looks and acknowledges, good afternoon, good morning, whatever, hello, or they look away. They look down, they look anywhere but looking at you. Or when I'm walking, like I said, walking my dog, they're out there, when you look at me, and I'm looking kind of like them just to say hello. But you start to see that there's this person inside this person, if you will, that has been that they talked about, Dr. Hawkins talked about, cloaked over, that they're sad or whatever it may be, or they're fearful. They've been living in a world where you don't look at other people, you don't make eye contact. And you just start to notice that. And you start to notice, you know, there are people who live like that, but that you're maybe part of it, and that there's a message there that just by you being nice to one other person, just recognizing somebody, just that subtle interaction is you're sending out a little seed of love, a little seed of kindness. That's all. That's all it takes. Okay. I don't, yeah, I have it. Okay. This acorn I've talked about in previous videos. Inside this acorn sleeps the mighty oak. And that drop of water that hits that acorn, okay, that little ray of sunshine, that the fertilizer, whatever it may be, the soil starts to just send a little seed inside there, or a little drop of something, and it starts to open up the acorn. That giant oak that sleeps inside. That giant oak that sleeps inside each and every, as you're watching this, each and every one of us. There's this giant oak that sleeps inside. And like Dr. Hawkins talks about, as we become more mindful of who we are, the truth of who we are, that mighty oak starts to blossom. Now, you notice this time of year here, I'm in the Northeast in America, springtime, a rose smells beautiful, looks beautiful, regardless of whoever is around. Understand that if you want to use that illustration, that there's a rose inside of you that's wanting to blossom, that's wanting to to show the world its beauty. So we start to understand that we live in the moment. We live more and more in this moment. And we start to love ourselves in this moment. We start to love life in this moment. We understand in this moment, nothing is wrong. There's perfection within this moment. Because there really is. The only thing that makes this moment not perfect is right here, is that voice inside of our head. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. What's going on? I remember doing this. We just sort of take a moment, we close, maybe with close our eyes or just take a deep breath. We just say, okay, I'm going to be centered. I'm going to be in this moment. Okay. So some other things I want to share with you from the book, Letting Go. And it is so it says here, every strong emotion is really a composite of a number of subsidiary emotions, and the total emotional complex can be disassembled. Again, every strong emotion, so a negative emotion, is really a composite of a number of subsidiary emotions, and the total emotional complex can be disassembled. Handling a crisis from the emotional rather than the intellectual level will shorten its duration dramatically. Handling a crisis from the emotional rather than the intellectual. So, isn't that what we do though? A crisis takes place, and suddenly it is a topic of gossip for the next how many days? We go home, we tell somebody. We go the next day, we tell somebody. We wake up the next day, and suddenly we continue to carry this around. We learn to let go. We understand what happens. We try to look at what the positive on the other side of the negative, and we learn to let go of it. It happened. It's in the past. Like Alan Watts talked about, it's part of our wake. We let go. We understand it's there, but that's just it. We let go. Okay. Another quote here, or another part of this is Dr. Hawkins talking about the acceptance of ourself and others. All that we did was done because we just didn't know any better at the time. So we're talking about guilt. So anything that we did, now when I talked about a few minutes ago when I started this video, something we said or did in the past that we realized, well, or in the moment we realized later on, well, we probably shouldn't have reacted that way. Yeah, we didn't know any better at the time. That's why so we leave it in the past. Okay. We see that we see that same blindness operating in others, and we cannot now, once we start to notice this in somebody else, another person's overreaction to a situation, we see that same blindness operating in others, and we can look past their character defects and see the innocent child within. Once we see our innocence, once we recognize our own innocence, there is an identification with others and a loss of feeling alone and stressed. We look inside a person and see the frightened animal that just doesn't know any better. So, on this level of acceptance, because of the major change in the way we perceive others, we now become aware of the inner innocence behind the frantic, fear driven struggles that have obscured it in ourselves and in our neighbors, friends, and family. The great teachers have said that the negativity which we see in a person or in society is really due to blindness, ignorance, and unconsciousness. This inner innocence, once it is perceived in others, is also perceived in ourselves. So we start to see what's taking place in the world. Wayne Dyer had a great story, if you will, about ego and about how when we're younger, and some of us it's still very prevalent within ourselves, how the ego dominates, and we have to be better than somebody else. We have to stretch more. We have to become more than the other person. I guess, was one of his first books, and he said, now this is very illuminating. He said, well, and I guess maybe this was his first wife. He said, I had my wife trained that every Wednesday, the New York Times released its bestseller list of the books on the bestseller list. And he said, I would be out on the road lecturing. He said, I would call my wife every Wednesday. He said, and I would ask her, hey, did you check the list? Yes, dear, I did. Great. Am I still on it? He said, I would do this every single Wednesday. Yes, dear, you're still on it. Okay, great. Soothing, satisfying his ego. Until one Wednesday he called and he asked the same question. And here's the lesson. His wife said to him, Wayne, dear, your book is on the bestseller list. You're not. And he realized in that moment, oh, got it. You see? So this is where the fear and the anger and all that comes from. It's the suppressed feelings, okay? It's the fear that was born into us as children. We didn't know any better about the church and guilt and fear and how we live this way. It's society. So we learn now, sort of bringing it into closure here in this video. We start to understand now that we're older. We learn to live in the moment. We learn to become still and silent. And we learn to understand where our fears are coming from and our anger. And anger really is just a manifestation of fear and the guilt. And we start to understand and learn that in this moment, everything in my life is perfect. We let go of what happened in the past, those who maybe have harmed us. We understand that that happened then, and that was the inner child inside of them coming out, that fear-based, ego-driven person coming out, and they didn't know any better. We understand and we let go of anything that we have done in the past that maybe we're not proud of, or things that we have accomplished. And maybe these trophies we're still hanging, carrying around with us as a certain identity. Look at me, look at the trophy. We leave it in the past. We understand that we don't need to prove anything to anybody. We live our truth. And what our truth is, whatever it is for you in that moment, that we are perfect and whole and complete. And we are exactly who that is right here in this moment. And we live like that as much as we can, moment to moment to moment. So, guys, this is my message for you here this morning. I appreciate and love each and every one of you for viewing this channel, for leaving comments down below whenever you do. I appreciate each and every one of you for doing that. If you haven't done so already, feel free to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you receive all of my videos and any other videos like these that are out there on YouTube. There's a tremendous amount. The other is feel free to leave a comment down below and share these videos with others. I appreciate each and every one of you who do that, who have been doing that in the past. I look forward to seeing you guys again when I make another video. And until I make another video, remember, you are perfect, complete, and whole right here, right now, in this very moment. And you are going to be that each moment of your life going forward. The past is the past. Like Alan Watts said, it's the wake. Leave it there. Okay? Detach as much as you can the emotional attachments from that. Learn to live here in this moment. Thank you so much. God bless you. And until I see you again, make it a wonderful day.